Welcome back, everyone, to another Weather at a Glance video. In today's forecast, we are going over our peak fall foliage forecast for the fall season of 2023, all coming up in just a bit. So starting off, we're going to be going over our fall foliage forecast from our last fall forecast that we did. So that was our official fall forecast. This is kind of showing you, first off, what you can expect to see, whether you're going to see delayed fall foliage or slightly early fall foliage, or whether you're in the neutral zone and you're going to see it at a normal time. So this is kind of going to play a role into how our timing is going to be affected, which we'll go over on the next slide in the main forecast. But starting off, we're going to go here in the gray where we have our slightly delayed, and you can see much of the United States was projected in my forecast, my fall forecast there, to be slightly delayed by their fall foliage. So we see a lot of conditions that are really being slightly delayed over here. And of course, down here in the white, we have no change. But you can see here, anywhere from the southeast all the way through much of the western United States and in the central United States, we have been seeing warmer, drier conditions, generally not nice for fall foliage. Thus, we are expecting slightly delayed fall foliage thereof. Now, when we say slightly delayed, we're not going to talk about a month or so. We're going to say maybe about a week to 2 weeks out. That's really what we mean by slightly delayed. So it's not going to be too far off from when you normally see it, but this is generally going to be a slight change in your fall foliage. Now moving on to our delayed regions here, we have one down here for the south central United States, and we have one up here for the Pacific Northwest. Now, both of these regions have a lot in common. We've been seeing far warmer conditions and drier conditions as well. Now, throughout the spring season, we need wetter conditions to set in. And then for our late season near the fall, we need cooler, crisp nights with kind of neutral precipitation. So we don't have crazy tons of rains, but we also don't have a large amount of dry conditions. So here we've been seeing these type of conditions where we've been very dry throughout the course of this entire season. And then we also see that now we're blistering in a lot of these areas, maybe not so much in the Pacific Northwest, but we do see down in the south, we are seeing those blistering conditions, and those warmer nights are really not going to play a good effect. So we're possibly looking at about 2 weeks delayed here. That's a rough estimate, but that's really what we're looking at. We're basically looking at delayed fall foliage for your fall season. Now on our region over here for the slightly early, this is, as you expected, a slightly earlier fall foliage for your season. So this region is kind of in the middle. It's a very random region when you first look at it. You may be wondering, well, what caused this? Why is this here? Well, first off, we've been seeing a lot of precipitation here in the spring season. We did see a lot of storminess and rain move through this area back in the spring season. And now we are seeing cooler, crisp nights move through these areas. Obviously, we've been seeing some cooler nights throughout the beginning of our meteorological fall season. And we are also seeing those cool, crisp nights stay continuous over the next couple weeks. So we are expecting slightly earlier fall foliage thereof. Now, moving on to our main map, we're looking at the fall foliage forecast. And here, this is going to be giving you a timing of really when you can expect to see your peak fall foliage. Now, note this isn't going to be exact to a date, but we are giving you kind of a time range that you can expect to see that peak fall foliage and when you can kind of go out and have the best chance to capture those really good photos or just overall go see the peak fall colors. So starting off here, we're going to work from the earliest to the latest here, and we're going to start off here in the northern regions. We have for the Rockies here, we have late September. So we see the Rocky Mountains, much of the Rocky Mountains are going to be seeing that late September peak fall foliage. So that's coming up here pretty fast. We're already filming this on September 18th, 2023. So you can see we already are nearing the end of September, and this is going to be coming up pretty quickly. Now we also see up here for portions of northern Minnesota, and even though we are expecting delayed fall foliage, I do believe some of those peaking conditions could reach the very end of September and into early October. So this is kind of a region where you're going to see that towards the very end of September, and that's why we have that in that late September region. And then we also see here for the far northeast and just above New England, we do see late September up here as well. I do believe a lot of these areas are going to see that peaking around within a couple weeks or so. Now on our next region, we are expecting early October. And you can see here, this is anywhere from the Rockies, on the outer bands of the Rockies and then the foothills. And then we also see over here for the northern United States around the Great Lakes, the northern Great Lakes there. And then we also see down to the northern Appalachian Mountains, down around West Virginia and up into portions of the northeastern United States. We do see earlier October peak fall foliage. Now, for a lot of the Appalachians, we do see about mid-October or so. So this is kind of a different story that we're telling. We could see some of those earlier side effects due to those cooler, crisp nights that we were talking about kind of over here in the central, but we do see some of those also over here in the Northeast mid-Atlantic. So do keep that in mind as well. Now over here for a large portion of the United States, we see this darker orange area, and this is the mid-October region. So this is pretty standard. A lot of people see their peak fall foliage around mid-October, especially if you're in the northern half of the United States here. And this includes all of the Appalachian Mountains and up through the mid-Atlantic here. So you can see cities such as Boston, New York, Washington, D.C., just north of Atlanta, Georgia, Indianapolis, St. Louis, Chicago, Detroit, Minneapolis, Denver, Salt Lake City, and just northeast of Seattle there. We do see all these areas are expecting mid-October peak fall foliage. Now, headed over here to the largest region on the map, we do see our lighter orange, and this is your late October region. So this is kind of where you're expecting anywhere towards the end of October, you're going to see your peaking. And this includes a lot of the central United States and even down in the southeast here. Those cities such as Charlotte, North Carolina, Nashville, Tennessee, Kansas City, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Portland, Oregon, and Seattle. We do see all those areas are in that late October area. And finally, on our last region where you are expected to change and expected to peak in your fall foliage is down here in the yellow region. We do see early November. Now, this is kind of the last chance that you have to see this peaking fall foliage. And this includes a lot of areas down in the southeast and southern United States. We do see Oklahoma City, Dallas, Texas, San Antonio, Texas, Memphis, Tennessee, over here to just north of Phoenix up in those mountains. And then we also see over here to Las Vegas and San Francisco. So those areas are expecting that early November peak fall foliage. That's kind of what you're expecting for your fall season so far. All right, I want to thank you all so much for watching today's video. If you did enjoy this video, I would ask you consider subscribing for more U.S. forecasts free of charge. And I would ask you consider following the Weather at a Glance official Facebook page for more inside information and complimentary personal forecasts when you message me on my Facebook page. Again, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.